powerful, heart-wrenching documentary. It was a cinematic experience as well. It was shot very cinematically. The storytelling was amazing. I loved the visuals and imagery that they showed of Christine in the water struggling. It's just a physical representation of what was happening in her mind with her disease, fighting to, breathe, to, uh, she felt like she was drowning in this disease. There was no escape. And we see that with this visual representation that is so beautifully shot. Um, all of the reenactments in this film are so well performed, so powerful. You forget that you're watching a reenactment, and a lot of times that's not true in documentaries, but I thought it was so well done in this one. Um, I love that we hear about Christine's entire life story from birth and all of the struggles that she goes through. And we really see the personal side of addiction that you don't get, and you don't realize when you see people struggling on the streets. You kind of have that detachment from it. And here, this documentary forces you to see the human side of addiction, the personal side, everybody that it affects, and the real humans behind it, which is powerful and really important to realize. Um, I also liked the animated aspect of this film. There was a short animation from Christine's journal about fighting her disease, which I thought was really cool, and I love the animation there as well. Um, and I also appreciated that they had interviews with addicts that are still living in this film as well, um, to see that they have very similar struggles to Christine every day that they're struggling with this. Um, and one of the quotes stood out to me that addiction is like taking your soul from you. And that's really what we see in this film from Christine.
I think that the cinematography was gorgeous. I especially loved what they did with their underwater photography. I thought that was really, really cool. The thing about Christine's story is what made this film so wonderfully done was the fact that you felt connected to her. And I think a big part of that had to do with how smart the filmmakers were with letting us know her dad and his pain and his emotional pain, and also the actors' reenactments of the past. It really helped you get a chance to feel like you knew Christine. And her story is heartbreaking. I mean, this was done so incredibly well, and it was beautiful. And the music was the perfect choice. I mean, it accented the piece beautifully, and it really, my heart goes out to the family. And I think that the filmmakers really, really did this justice.
I felt that the use of the personal narratives, Christine, at the core of the story really reflected the sort of the rapid, descent that fentanyl and the opioid crisis has had. I think a lot of people are quite naive about how widespread the opioid crisis is and how many people are dying all the time from fentanyl overdoses is extraordinarily high. I believe one of the leading causes of death, premature death in general in America. And I think the piece really had a strong sort of emotional and philosophical understanding of addiction, the struggles of addiction, and sort of having a sense of compassion for people who go down this path and not always attributing malice towards people who are suffering from addiction. Fentanyl is an incredibly powerful drug that is quite difficult to get off of in a medical and clinical sense. And I thought the piece had a very strong argument to explaining why people struggling from this need to be humanized and how the crisis needs to be affected. And I thought it needs to be addressed. And I thought the piece tried to have a sort of full circle understanding of the drug industry, people who are making the drugs, who are bringing the drugs, and how this entire sort of cycle is reflective of a struggle to eat, to survive, to deal with emotional and mental well-being that leads people to down this kind of path, both on the addiction side and on the production and sales side. So I thought the piece worked hard to reflect the realities of the dark realities of the addiction, and also wanted to exist as a sort of hopeful beacon for help, and in the name of a loved one for the creator.
This is a very intense and heartbreaking documentary. I love that initial scene with the person in water, and we see this specific scene throughout the film with some variances. It is a very poetic scene, even though the meaning of drowning is dire and tragic, and it takes even more relevance when you understand all the hurdles that Christine went through and her family as well in trying to rehabilitate from a drug addiction. They put a great effort on keeping a sensible approach through telling the story but not casting a shadow on the pain and suffering that Christine was going through, and what families also go through with emotional ups and downs in this process. I commend the people involved in sharing the story so others can potentially avoid this outcome, recognize some signs earlier, and possibly save someone's life, and also avoid all the pain and depression that people like Christine might be experiencing.
Seeing this and seeing addiction from a different perspective was really interesting and really, really moving to watch, and to see just the impact and the different kind of avenues and ups and downs that it looked at, it because it really did track everything from, you know, beginning to end, and starting like from birth to, you know, all the way past through what the legacy has taken on now. And this was just a really beautiful way to get the information out there for people that maybe aren't as informed as I was, and getting to really see the impact of addiction, the impact of trauma, the impact not just on one person, but on a whole family and a whole friendship group, a whole support group, a whole community. And I thought it was really beautiful. It was really moving. It was really powerful. I love the message behind it, and the, you know, the outreaches and the steps that they're trying to take with this charity and the new purpose.